Today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 and how we got here. Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and today I want to wind the clocks back to how we got here. With the release of the PlayStation 5 just around the corner, everybody will be eagerly awaiting their delivery driver to bring it to them, or at Christmas time where Father Christmas might have it under your tree. I, for one, won't be on the good list, which means I probably have to settle for a Stadia or something. You see, most people might look forward to the new console generation and just think about the new console, obviously. But you have to go back quite far to appreciate how we got to this stage and what's come before it in order for the PlayStation 5 to be what it is today. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have to wind the clocks back to 1988, where Sony were actually involved with the making of the CD drive that would go into the Super Famicom system by Nintendo. At the time, Sega was holding about a 52% market share in both North America and Europe, both massive markets, and Nintendo wanted a piece of the pie, so they decided to have their own version of the upcoming Sega CD, the Super Famicom. Nintendo, understandably, went to a company that already had a lot of experience in CD technology, and they approached Sony to do that for them. This, for Sony, was great. This was an opportunity to work with one of the biggest gaming companies there's ever been. However, things aren't always quite that simple, because little did they know, Nintendo decided to approach Philips at the same time, in secret, meaning that they had two companies working on the same technology without Sony aware. Look, these double dealings aren't gonna end well. Strangely enough, at the time, Nintendo didn't even publicly announce that they were working with Sony on this project, which must have been very strange, but over time things would become much clearer, and in particular, at the Consumer Electronics Show in June 1991, which, a day after the show, Nintendo formally went with Philips, leaving Sony in the dust. In bird culture, that's considered a dick move. Sony, understandably, were a little bit apprehensive about going into the gaming market because they didn't have a wealth of experience, and this was really their first chance at doing it. And when they try, they get betrayed and backstabbed by Nintendo. So, as you can imagine, they weren't too happy about this. And, well, as the saying goes, revenge is the best revenge. And Sony decided to work on their own independent games console, a massive risk, but very likely spurred on because of what had occurred with Nintendo. And as a result, their first video game console was in production, known as the Sony Playstation. Originally, the console was intended to run CD-ROMs and Super Nintendo cartridges, but after manufacturing 200 units in 1992, they basically scrapped them all and decided to bide their time, waiting for the use of CD technology to come to the forefront. Sony Computer Entertainment was born, and they charged headfirst into the competition, releasing the first console in Japan on the 3rd of December 1994. And honestly, the console was truly revolutionary at the time, with its main competitors being the Sega Saturn and the Nintendo 64, so its only real competitor was the Nintendo 64. Also, talking about Sony Computer Entertainment, here's some nostalgia for you. You hear that? That's the sound of your childhood, and mine too. This console was so successful, however, that by December 2003, they had shipped over 102 million units, which is a lot of consoles. This certainly paved the way for the next generation of PlayStation consoles, after the storming success of the PlayStation 1, otherwise known as the big middle finger to Nintendo. Sporting such titles as Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Ridge Racer, Final Fantasy series, Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, Tekken, Tomb Raider, Spider-Man, so many good games. So the next console was the PlayStation 2. An incredibly inventive name, but of course it did the job. It was the second console, so it had to be called that. And it was released in the year 2000 alongside a new stylized PS1 console, with direct competition with the newly released Xbox console and the Nintendo GameCube. Sony realised that they didn't need to fix what wasn't broken, and they basically just built off their previous success and released a whole host of new games for the PlayStation 2 alongside the ability to have pretty much every single PlayStation 1 game be backwards compatible. When I was talking about the PlayStation 1, I know I said that it was an incredibly successful console, but when we're talking about the PlayStation 2, let me just say that this gaming console is the best-selling console of all time. Yes, I'm going to repeat that. The best-selling gaming console of all time. That should just go to show you how good of a console this was. And I should know because I had the PlayStation 1, and when I got the PlayStation 2, it blew my little mind. Selling a whopping 155 million consoles around the world, you would be hard-pressed to find a kid who didn't have the PlayStation 2. To follow this up, in 2004, a new slimline model was released, and it basically was just a sleeker, more powerful version of the PlayStation 2 with an Ethernet port. So, just in case you want that, you've got it included. Popular games on the system were titles such as Grand Theft Auto 3, Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, God of War, you name it. And with the natural progression of things, you would have assumed that the next console coming out was the PS3, given the naming convention. However, we are jumping the gun there, and there is a little console that came out before that. And when I say little, I really do mean little. 2004 in Japan and 2005 in Europe and America, PlayStation released the PlayStation Handheld. And as you might imagine, it being a handheld console, it was a direct competitor to Nintendo's Game Boy and Nintendo DS consoles. So really just another big finger to them at the same time. If they were going to eat into their market, they may as well do it with more than one console. As far as notable games, GTA Liberty Stories. That's pretty much the only notable game I could have thought of. I mean, if you thought of anything better, let me know in the comments, but I think we all know that was the game for the PlayStation handheld. Sony were on a roll, and with the successful release of the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, why not just keep going and keep pumping the sales with the release of the PlayStation 3, or the PS3 for short? Well, not quite. I mean, the console was good, but honestly, it had real stiff competition this time round. It was released as a direct competitor not only to the Nintendo Wii, but the Xbox 360, both of which would be incredibly successful consoles in their own right, and really it kind of left the PlayStation 3 in the dust. You know what, I can't quite put my finger on it. It might be because it looks like a toaster, or that when you turned it on it sounded like an aircraft carrier was taken off in your front room, or it was, who knows. It was probably more so the fact that it cost more than both of its competitors, and honestly, when it comes down to money, that is a massive factor. The main reason behind this was the tech that was used in the console, including the Blu-ray player, the wireless controllers, and the motion sensitivity. There was a lot to package in here, and as a result, it did bloat the price quite a bit. I mean, were these things that people at the time really needed or wanted? I mean, that's great and all, but brass tacks, when it comes down to it, if that price tag for one console is lower than the other, I can bet my bottom dollar that the vast majority of people will probably go for the cheaper console. To follow this up, in 2009 they decided to release a slimline model which was quieter and used less power, and they even made a super slimline version, but I don't think it ever really picked up enough ground to actually make a massive difference. This console generation clearly belonged to Xbox. Major games on the console included The Last of Us, God of War, the Uncharted series, Batman Arkham Asylum, GTA Heavy Rain, Gran Turismo, and others. I mean, I could sit here and list games all day, but I don't think that's the reason you clicked on this video. The console actually had a fantastic library of games, and many of those titles I listed were very, very well received. However, I think the fact that the console was average, a lot of those games didn't really get the recognition they deserved. Also, when doing my research, I realised that the PS Vita was released just after this, which, to be perfectly honest, I completely forgot that console even existed. Did anything good come out on the PS Vita? Released in Japan in 2011 and Europe and North America in the following year, it was a thing, I guess. Okay, moving on, we go to the PlayStation 4, an opportunity for Sony to make up for lost ground. The PS4 was in direct competition with the Xbox One and the Wii U. And honestly, no one really cared about the Wii U, so its main competitor was the Xbox One. And hot off the heels of the Xbox 360, this was going to be a challenge. Sony, clearly learning from their mistakes last time, decided to take a different tact. Instead of making their console incredibly powerful but incredibly expensive, all they really needed to do was undercut the market and basically try and get a one-up on their competitor. Released at the end of 2013, the console was very successful and did much better than its predecessor. This was for a variety of reasons, but one in particular, which was likely the absolute cluster that Microsoft did when releasing their console, which just gave people every reason to go towards the PS4. Microsoft and their incredibly controversial decisions on the DRM and Kinect restrictions just gave people a reason to try out the PlayStation, and with it being competitively priced, powerful enough to be a next generation console, and having a wide array of games, it was a hit. This Goliath collection of first-party exclusives include games such as Bloodborne, Ratchet & Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, Shadow of the Colossus Remastered, Uncharted, God of War, The Last of Us. Damn, that is a lot of titles, and no wonder they dominated the 8th console generation. They had everything they needed. Capable of high dynamic range for vibrant visuals, integrated streaming, the console truly embraced the new technology at the time, and has certainly put Sony in a good position when looking forward to the release of their new console, the PS5. And yes, that brings us to today. With the release of the new console just around the corner, people are getting hyped. And of course, as you see with the fanboys online, both sides are waging war as to whether the PlayStation or the Xbox will take the crown for this console generation. The PS5 being released with the standard version of the console and also the newly introduced digital-only version without a CG drive but a little bit cheaper. So, the question is, who's going to come out on top? And I know what a lot of you are going to be thinking with the success of the PlayStation 4 and with everything they've announced so far, PS5 looks like it's going to be a surefire hit. However, the baton of king of the console generation has passed back and forth every few generations, so maybe it's the time for Xbox to come out on top. Who knows? I guess we'll have to see. However, with Xbox coming with a wide variety of games, the incredibly successful Xbox Game Pass, and the backwards compatibility, PlayStation's going to have to come out swinging. If the previous console releases are anything to go by, all it takes is a few smart decisions, or a few really dumb ones, to sway that decision from one way to the other. So, it's anyone's game. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas as to what videos you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Right, for those of you who are wondering if I'm going to do a video on the Nintendo Switch, then no, I'm not. Sorry guys, not this time anyway. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.